Video, switch camera. Sarah, can you hear me?
Yep, I got you now. I wasn't able to unmute it. My keypad's a little funky, but I got it now.
Thanks for jumping on. Everything good on your end?
Yeah, yeah, we just need some better weather, which it's coming. But we had better weather in February than we have here in the last few weeks. So go figure.
February. Okay. What is
Yeah.
it? Is it like 40 degrees now and cold?
Yeah, today's better. It's in the mid upper 50s. It was cold. I had to cancel a lot of things earlier in the week and windy. For some reason, we were at like 40-mile-an-hour winds. So that I think is supposed to kick back up tomorrow. So oh well.
Downwind, that's fun.
Exactly.
We figure out how to get this video working for Zoom. How do I enable video? Gosh, Google's so good. In your Zoom meeting, click participants. In the participant list, click more. In the drop down, allow panelists to start video. Allow to record, allow to multi-pin. If it was only that easy. Where's that button? Evan, do you get the same error when you try to put your video up? It says host disabled video.
Yep, I get the same one.
And that would be default. Makes no sense. Video. Hide non-video. Enable stop incoming. See myself. Evan, try this. I just made you the co-host. Does that allow you to jump in? Oh, there we go. Let's see how many co-hosts we can have. Make Jackie Schmidt a co-host. Oh, we might have found it. There she is, Jackie. All right, Jackie, meet Evan. Evan, meet Jackie.
Hi,
Very nice to meet you.
nice to meet you as well.
Jackie's in North Carolina and Evan's in Connecticut. Let's see
Yes.
if Sarah's video, if we can get that going. If you can try it again, Sarah. Ah, look at that. 4 for 4. Fantastic. Okay, well, let's get rolling. It's 1 o'clock. We got the video working right on time. Certainly appreciate our guests joining us for this webinar, which will be fun to do on teaching versus coaching. I always try to communicate to our coaches that there's different hats that we wear. Sometimes we're wearing the teaching hat, sometimes we're wearing the coaching hat, but then within that topic, there's also different hats we wear for different age groups, different maturity levels of our students, different level of players. There's a lot of different hats that we wear, and we've got some great guests on that are going to help us with this. We've got Evan Lambert, Tumble Brook Country Club. Is that right? Yes.
That's correct.
In Connecticut. He just recently was recognized as one of Connecticut's best teachers in state for Golf Digest. He's an Op 36 Top 50 Master Coach and was recognized as the Connecticut PGA Youth Player Development Award recipient and 2018 PGA Assistant Professional of the Year in Connecticut. So great to have Evan on here. I visited with Evan last summer on my trip up the East Coast. We had a nice meeting, a nice meal at his facility, and he's very motivated, excited to be a coach. He's got a really cool background. He was an educator before, so he can kind of lend some perspective on that too, which I appreciate. And great to have you on, Evan.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And we also have Sarah Bidney on. She's out in Iowa at Hyperion Field Club. Is that right pronunciation?
Yep. Hyperion Field Club.
If you ever get an email from Sarah, Sarah's got some of the most credentials that I've ever seen in coaching. So we're very humbled to have her on here. She's a nationally award-winning instructor and coach, 3-time Iowa PGA Teacher of the Year, 3-time Iowa PGA Youth Player Development Award winner, and a 3-time Golf Digest Best in State teacher in the state of Iowa. Sarah, there's like 10 other things on here. I won't read through them all. But it's great to have you on here, Sarah. And I've known Sarah for a long time, maybe 10 years. She came to one of our first trainings we ever had in North Carolina. It's been great for us to be able to bounce ideas off of her in Op 36 and learn what she has learned. She's been at, I believe, 2 different facilities running Op 36 over the years. So she has a great perspective on this. And I think her daughter is is your daughter still participating in the program?
Yeah, she's moved into what I call the leading edge, but I'm going to have her still continue with the Op 36 events also. So, but yeah, and my son, they're both at 150
Okay.
in the on course journey.
Perfect. So another great perspective to have on the panel, Sarah as a mom, but also Sarah as a coach, which is great. So great to have you on here, Sarah. Thanks for jumping in. Is that a fireplace behind you in the pro shop?
I'm just in our banquet space.
Oh, banquet space.
So it's decent weather today. We'll have too many disruptions in the golf shop. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then we also have Jackie Schmidt on, LPGA Class B professional. She's in North Carolina at Keith Hills Golf Club. Jackie brings a really cool perspective because she played junior golf, went through that process, went to Marshall University, a Division I school to play college golf at. And now she coaches as a young professional down here in North Carolina, has a very active academy where she's got close to 80 juniors that come monthly to her program and 20 or so, my number might be off there, Jackie, on her adult program. She really is excited about getting better as a coach. She's very curious. I always love to have conversations with her. She's going to bring a great perspective to this panel from not only her experience in coaching, but also playing. And I appreciate Jackie. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. All right. So we are going to try to go down the path of teaching and coaching and explaining that. And Evan, if you don't mind, from your perspective, what is the difference between teaching and coaching? And can you have one without the other? Maybe if you don't mind being the guy to kick us off.
Well, this all started, I was having a chat with a friend of mine, and his 2 parents were physical education teachers, and I was a general music teacher, pre-K through 6, and then I taught high school 9 through 12 as well. And he said to me, I don't consider myself to be a teacher. I consider myself to be a coach. And that really, I started thinking about that, and I said, can you do one without the other? I think you can be just a teacher or just a coach. But to me, teaching is the what, the technical motion, the terminology, the knowledge of the game, and how you instruct somebody brand new on how to implement the moves, the thought process, etc. And I see coaching as the how and the why. Why do we do certain things? How do we take this to the golf course? And then how do you manage the interpersonal relationship between the coach and the player to the benefit of both? So I think there's a different dynamic between teaching a subject matter versus coaching an individual. And it's my personal opinion that you need both to be really, truly exceptional. And that's what I strive to do, is to include both in all of my instruction.
Perfect. The one thing I missed as the host, those that are attending, if you have any questions throughout, please pop into the Q&A. Sam's manning that for us. You can put some notes in there. We'll answer it after we go through the panelists on a few rounds of questions. Please put those in there. A quick response, Evan. You come from an educational background, being in a classroom. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Middle school, elementary, what were you doing?
I was doing elementary up to 6th grade, and then I taught high school choir first thing in the morning to high school girls.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Did not know that. If we
Yeah,
ever need
yeah.
somebody to sing the national anthem, we might have.
I've done that multiple times. I'd be happy to do it.
Elementary school, are you a teacher? Are you a coach?
In that aspect, it was more teaching. It was instructing things. So to draw on my previous experience, when I was studying in undergraduate school to be a singer and a teacher, we would have our voice instructor who would teach you the pedagogical things, the physiological things, how to sing. But then performance majors would then have a separate coaching with a vocal coach, say they're preparing for the opera. So that person wouldn't be teaching them, all right, proper breath support, space, all that jazz. It would be more, how do you stylistically interpret the piece to best perform this in this opera? So that's the difference that that comes to mind of how to differentiate between teaching and coaching. And it would be in our world, if you're instructing face to path ratio, you're teaching them about how to get your path one way and the face another way. But then coaching would be, how do you use that shape on the course? How do you make good decisions? How do you put yourself in good opportunities to score using that knowledge, or finding your preferred shot shape? Going through those certain things, helping guide the player rather than saying this is the way to do it, because in that aspect there are many different ways to do it.
Perfect. Interesting. I know nothing about voice and that arena. That's really cool to hear. Sarah, what are the changes that you find yourself making with the different age groups to coach them more effectively? Like, you're probably going to coach maybe an 8-year-old different than a 12-year-old or a 16-year-old. Can you kind of go through that?
Yeah, sure. I think at its core, it needs to be fun, right? I think we all know that and understand that. The younger the age, typically the less attention span that I tend to see. So it's you got to get in, get out quick. Want to keep it to the point. I don't know, I think maybe I have about a minute of their time, and that might be, from an expert standpoint and learning, maybe that's droning on. But, as you mentioned, I have a couple of kiddos, and I've seen, it's kind of interesting to watch when they're in other sports, and not to pick on one coach in particular, but he was like given a dissertation in front of these 9-year-old baseball boys. It just, I was like, oh, this is brutal. But anyway, so certainly trying to keep it fun. I think as they get older, they tend to enjoy the competitions a little bit more. Every once in a while, we have to read the room and see maybe there is a shy kid or somebody who doesn't get motivated by that. But I had my more advanced kids yesterday, and right away they were all over, how can we keep score? How can we make it a competition? And it was all in putting, and some chipping skills yesterday. But yeah, I think, I don't know if that fully answers the question, but I think, I like the structure of Op 36, where we let them, give them a challenge, they try it, they fail a little bit, we pull them back, we give them that, couple of nuggets of information, let them go and try it again. And it's just that, do and learn and coach and teach and kind of repeat the whole process. So, and then as far as adults, I think a lot of us have adults. I don't know if you want me to venture into that topic. I think still it needs to be fun, but I do think adults have more bandwidth. And I do have a lot of beginner ladies, even though it's an adult program, there's a lot of beginner ladies, and they want to know more about the why. I think they're a little more hesitant to make a mistake. They want to know, okay, is this exactly right? There's a little bit more fear in adults, at least from what I've seen, or hesitancy, or they want to do it right, whereas kids just want to get their hands on the club and go, go, go. So, with adults, we can take a little more time in explaining it, and certainly give them chances to try it and then come back with more questions. But yeah, kids, it's got to be a little more bang, bang, bang. Keeps me on my toes, I would say, with kids.
Absolutely. Have you seen, as a follow-up, Sarah, have you seen the attention spans change in kids over the last 15, 20 years? Like, have you seen, because of something, it get shorter or longer?
Yeah, to me, it seems shorter. I don't know if it's the world of TikTok and quick bits of information, or not, I think that's mostly what they're on, TikTok, Snapchat. There's probably others out there that I have no idea about.
Pretty good.
But so I think so. And what's interesting, I was texting with my sisters about something unrelated to golf, and my older sister said, I really, it's Facebook Reels for us. We're the Facebook generation. We're in our 40s. And she's like, I really find that I like my information in these small tidbits, these small little video reels. And I was like, oh, that's, so It's not only in golf, but I think just in all of our lives. And she just said it without any sort of relationship to learning golf or anything. So yeah, I wonder if all of us have a slightly shorter attention span.
So maybe the challenge to us as teachers, but also coaches, is to deliver the information or the support or the coaching in a very succinct, simple manner versus the drone on, long run on sentences. Like, cause once it seems like to me, once you get to the second sentence, they're gone. Like,
Right. Yeah.
they listen to what you're saying at the beginning and you better have something ready for them, either an action or a response, or they're gone.
Yeah. And I even tell my kids, in classes, as long as they're still working on the skill that we're in, like say it's putting, I don't want them going off to the side and chipping when, we're all in the green. But if they find themselves getting a little bored with whatever challenge I've set forth, with whatever, game we're playing, they can adjust it a little bit as long as it doesn't impact somebody else's learning. Maybe they need to gamify it a little bit more or have a little higher challenge, or maybe they want to be with their buddy and play against each other. I don't mind that. Like, I don't see that as them distracting themselves. I think it's anything that we can do to keep them engaged. So I give them some permission there to have a little bit of choice and a little bit of control. So, and that seems to work well.
Well, staying on the technology subject, Jackie, you've probably used technology more than most of us on this panel. You probably started out. I don't even want to ask when you got your first phone. But like, can you take us through how you currently use technology to support your coaching?
Yeah, so one thing I use a lot is Coach Now in my classes as well as private lessons. I've learned that for these students, visuals matter. A lot of people now, going off what Sarah said, have been conditioned to look at a screen to learn those small tidbits of information. We see this a lot with people who coin themselves Instagram golfers and graduates of YouTube University. So being able to take something that's comfortable for people, which right now is technology, when they're in an uncomfortable situation, such as changing something or trying something new in a private lesson or class setting, it helps the coach, you as a coach, build a bond and develop trust with your students. When you show them something right in front of them, it gives the player some autonomy to ask any questions that they have, right? If you're watching a reel, you can't just say, oh, well, why am I doing this? Why does that happen? How does that happen? When at the end of the reel, it's over. You don't get to have a conversation with that person. So for them, it's a little more hands-on. And I've noticed that you definitely get more deeper conversation. You get a look into their thought process. And even they get to get some hands-on. With Coach Now, you can draw lines, you can show angles, you can scroll however fast or however slow. So sometimes I turn that over to them so they can have a little bit of control in what we're looking at. And then they'll say, oh, so I do this because of X, Y, and Z. But outside of private lessons and classes, I oftentimes use the Operation 36 Report Center. If somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I've been at Division 3 or level 3 for 40 attempts. I don't know why I can't pass. I'll pull up, their player report, putting may be an issue. So I say, okay, so when we stand over a putt, what is the thought process that's going on in your mind? That's probably the area that we could improve the most. And then from there, you get to show them the stats and you get to have real conversation about how they think they can improve and how you can help their mindset shift from potentially being nervous to, okay, I'm going to try that next time, to help build their confidence.
What you just said there, I wish I had that terminology when I was younger. Mindset shift. So those are attendees that are here, like, that's a great term to kind of research and get good at, is a mindset shift, a perspective shift is another way to say it. Like, folks have these ideas, stories. I talk to my teenager about this all the time. I'm like, where did you get that story that is right? Like, that narrative is not right, what you're coming up with. Let's shift that a little bit and let's look at it this way, and then give me a response as to what you think. And sometimes people just need that that mindset shift, or somebody in their life, if their parents aren't able to do it, coach. We're in front of them all the time. We get an opportunity to do that. That's so helpful. Jackie, can you dive a little bit deeper on like, how do you use Coach Now, the visuals, like take us through a session? Are you drawing a line and saying, hey, look at this? Or are you actually turning the iPad to them and having them draw on the iPad and giving you a response? Like, what have you found to be effective?
So what I have found is once I've had a couple of lessons with somebody and they understand how Coach Now works, I'll start out, I draw the lines, I take them to the position that we're talking about. And I also have, a professional or somebody who we're comparing them to. If you just show them a difference and say, oh, I want your arm to be here instead of where it is, they don't know where this quote unquote here is. So if you can find a model to show where it should be, that's when I would use the line of, okay, this is where our arm needs to be when we're, when our club is halfway back. Usually about 3 lessons in, I'll challenge them to, hey, on your own, I want you to look at Coach Now. I want you to be able to tell the difference between when your arm is here and here, take video, draw the line. So at the next lesson, I can say, okay, so this is what we worked on, last time. Can you show me where we are now? And that helps give them the hands-on approach. And then they, in their own mind, are making the breakthrough of, oh, wow, I guess I didn't make the change, or, oh, I did that change really well. Maybe I overdid it. So sometimes putting the technology in their hands will help them make the breakthrough instead of you just out there drawing lines for them.
So it's almost like we're taking them from a passive listener, just standing there like digesting the information that they're not digesting or they even care about, to turning them into an active, maybe participant, where you turn the iPad to them and say, hey, draw the line. And I'm assuming the response is, I'm sorry, I wasn't listening to what you were saying before. So can you say it again? And then they draw the line and potentially they take ownership of
Yes.
whatever the change is that you're trying to make. So that's super helpful. Thank you, Jackie, on that. All right, Evan, we're going to get a little bit deeper. All right. What is the most important attribute that you feel a teacher and coach needs, or you can separate that, teacher or coach, to be most effective?
This is a hard one, Ryan. There are so many different things. But for me, the most important thing for a teacher and a coach to be able to do is to communicate in different ways to a variety of different people, because every student that comes across our lesson tee is different. They interpret information differently. So I think that's the art form of what we do, is to figure out how that specific person's mind works and connect the information, because the information really isn't changing all that much. The way we deliver it in order for it to really stick, that's the artistry of what we do. And one of the things I like to try to do is to keep it as simple as possible and to create phrases that are going to stick and be able to be repeated over and over, because repetition is important. So for instance, in the Operation 36 curriculum, tap your toe is absolutely gold. All the beginner people that I have, they come through like, I've never heard of this before. And now all I have to say to them is tap your toe, and boom, they're getting more into a full finish. Other examples of things I've come up with the students, I involve my students as well. How do I make this make sense to you? So I've got robot arms, I got belly breaks, I've got give the grass a haircut, I've got the umbrella swing. These are all things that I kind of tell them, this is what I want you to do, but this is how we're going to term it. So for instance, give the grass a haircut. And when we're doing short game shots, chipping and pitching, we don't want to dig into the ground, but we want to engage the bounce. So instead of telling a 6-year-old, hey, I want you to use the bounce of the club, they don't know what that is. They wouldn't have no idea. I say, I want you to give the grass a haircut. Club's going to bounce against the ground. You're going to cut the tips off, but you're not going to dig it in. And then it makes sense to them. It hits them where they live. And it works for a variety of different players. You just have to figure out the individual in front of you. And Jackie, to the Instagram golfers and the YouTube golfers, whenever I have a student that says, oh yeah, I'm watching a lot of Instagram or a lot of YouTube, I say, okay, the problem with that is the information may be good, but that coach is looking into a camera. They're not looking at you specifically. So I kind of have them send me what you're looking at, and I'll tell you if I like it for you, because I know you. I gotten to know your personality, your swing. Let's see if it's actually good information. I got a whole list in my phone of links to these specific drills with names next to them, because this one's going to be perfect for this person. This one's going to be perfect for that person. It's what keeps me awake at night. And the last thing I would say to answer that question, I had a conversation with Kate Tempesta of Birdie Basics about what makes a coach or teacher the best. And what we arrived at is simply and a little cheesy, but it's care. It's you have to care about your players as people. You want to see them grow and evolve on a personal level, and then golf becomes secondary. If they succeed in golf, great, but I want to make a young player, a junior golfer, a better person through the game of golf, and through that they will inherently love the game more. That's my belief.
I saw a stat the other day to support that, Evan, that was like, and Sarah, you probably know this, like 1 to 2% of golfers playing college or something like that, or 1 to 2% of players play at the Division I level in golf, something like that. It's like so small. And the article or book I was reading just went on to, hey, coach, what about the other 99%? Like, why are they there? Like, interview the parents, ask the parents, what is the purpose of us being? Well, we want them to get a college scholarship. Okay, 99% of people don't. So if they're not going to get a college scholarship, how can we have fun? How can we enjoy? How can we be productive in the 99%? Versus the 1%, because I find myself sometimes, like, okay, let's do this. We're going to try to be this. And in reality, we still got to get some other things done, overcoming obstacles, feeling how to deal with adversity, coping skills, mindset shifts, imagery, all these things that are really important for life that we sometimes miss when we're focused on the high level player, or that's the goal. I've got a note here, Evan. What is robot arms?
So I had a player that came in with just the arms folding like this. And I said, okay, these are wet spaghetti arms. You don't want wet spaghetti arms. What we want to make your arms like a robot. And all of a sudden, instead of getting way down here past the line, they all of a sudden started to hold it into a more proper backswing. And actually she came up with that. She was 9 years old at the time. I said, what are we going to call this? Because I called it, I want your arms to be stronger. And she says, like a robot. I said, great. Robot arms, let's go. And for her, that clicked. So involving the student in that dialogue helps it become personal. And she's proud that she has now coined a phrase that I use with other students.
Oh yeah, I bet she feels great, right? Like that's
Yeah.
her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what a great idea. I love that. Robot arms, give grass a haircut. That's fantastic. Perfect. All right. Sarah, coaching a golfer during a 9-hole event requires different skills from coaching in a weekly class. How do you coach a golfer during an event? What, if anything, changes for you?
Yeah, so I think this goes into, we give them skills during class, and then now it's how do you implement it? With kids especially, I try to, if they have the attention span, I really try to get them to buy into a pre-shot routine. And it doesn't have to be extensive by any means, like we've talked, it needs to be short to the point. But big club face awareness, set the club first. Well, a couple of practice swings, make sure you set the club, deep breath and go. And if they can get into that rhythm, it'll slow them down instead of just getting up there and just not paying any attention. Of course, there's more that goes into it, but it's like, all right, when golf comes down to it, we have to have a good club face. Going at your target, even if you top it or thin it, if it's going the proper direction, it can be very playable still. But yeah, club face, couple of practice swings to be loose, and then go. I'm also really trying to help them understand that golf is imperfect. So really trying to set their expectations, and it's never to be in a negative way. But, as we know from stats, it's like, I try to ask them, where do you think that the tour pros are at their 50-50 mark on, and usually they're like 15 feet, 20 feet, and it's like 8 feet, right? Some feet, 10 inches. And I always followed up. I'm like, just because they're at 50-50 on this doesn't mean that you have to stand over a putt and be Eeyore about it and be like, I'm not going to make it. Even the tour, it's not that, but it's just more managing the expectations. So if it doesn't go in, that's all right. That's okay. We certainly are giving it a good effort, but if it doesn't go in, we can't let it just blow up. So I think it's also that post shot expectations and post shot routine. So I think got something from you, Ryan, probably a number of years ago about the flush it away,
Oh, yeah.
the all that. That's a lot of fun. Kids really like that. So yeah,
That's
I don't know
perfect.
if I was succinct into the
No,
point,
that's
but
great.
yeah, and just the process of it. If Iowa here, right? Sorry, UConn, but hope, we're going against each other tonight, right? And Caitlin Clark's everybody knows who Caitlin Clark is now, and it's really fun to watch her post-game interviews because she talks so much about her process and being where she's at in the moment and all that. And so I've started bringing that up to the kids too. We just kicked off our spring session this week, and I'm like, if you guys listen to Caitlin Clark, like it's all about process and it's all about staying in the moment. And does she make every three pointer? Kind of seems like it, but she doesn't, and so just working on that too. Just like, hey, she's a great role model. Everybody knows her, especially here in Iowa, but now nationally and probably internationally. And so that's kind of a fun one to talk to the kids about too.
That's perfect. Sarah, could you take us through, every coach does this a little bit differently, but when you run a 9-hole event,
Mhm.
what do you do? Like, do you sit on the first tee and then wait for them on the ninth? Do you send them off and you go around and watch each group? Like, what have you found to be the most productive use of your time during a 9-hole event?
Sure, some of it's staff limitations because I'm the director of instruction, but I don't have an assistant teaching pro. In the summer, I have an intern, or I will have an intern this year, and I had one a couple of years ago. So I do, especially in the first few events, I am there. Usually I am there. I think they like that. And then depending on the number of kids and adults that are playing, then if I get a chance to make one loop around and watch, I wish I could watch more. Certainly. But then I do meet them on the ninth green to, celebrate, get stats, take pictures, all that stuff. So in the summer with my intern, I'm hoping that he'll be able to get them started and I'll be able to float more and be able to see more kids playing and see more, in real life swings, and then meet everybody. I like to be on the ninth green, whether it's to help console or to do the celebrating. I really like to be there at the end. So
That's really important time for you to be there. The parents are there. They're looking for help. If the kid's emotional, like they don't know what to do.
yeah.
Hey, what should I, okay, I'm gonna say what's normal. And you don't want to, as a parent, say what's normal, which is always correcting things that are right. It's really good if a coach has the time and the ability, like Sarah does. I know, Evan, you do the same thing, and Jackie does the same thing on the ninth green. Like, be there on the ninth green, set up a table, maybe set up an area away, and just tell mom and dad, hey, we're going to do a debrief real quick, mom and dad. If you can stay over on your cart, I'm just going to talk to Lizzie for a little while about what went on. And that allows you as the coach to decompress, to tell them whatever they need. Hey, it's okay. You did great. The joys in the journey. This is your third attempt. You're doing fantastic. Look at these stats. Like, which one did you do great at? Oh, coach, I hit 8 greens. That's fantastic. All right. How many putts did you have? Oh, I had 22, coach. That's not good. All right. What should we do about it? And then they come up with an idea and they're like, all right, Coach Sarah, I want to work on my putting. Like, what should I do? And then they're curious. They come up with the idea and you can flip it. And then when they go see mom and dad, they're smiling versus upset that they had 20 putts. So I think that's a good takeaway for the participants today that Sarah brought up. Really consider being on the ninth green to welcome them. Try not to just give the scorecards out and collect them in the pro shop if you don't have to. I've heard some folks, they just hand out the scorecards, they collect them in the pro shop, and then the pro comes in the next day and gets the scorecards and takes a look at them. If you have to do that, I completely understand, but it'd be great if you could be on the ninth green to console them. Good stuff there, Sarah. You're big on the Pia Nilsson, Lynn Marriott pre-shot, in-shot, post-shot routine stuff, right?
Yeah. I was able to go down maybe in 2018 or something like that, do their coaching group, and yeah, it just makes sense to me. And I
Yeah.
think it just really helps them. I mean, we're human. We're gonna have a response, especially to the poor shots. But the faster you can get out of that negativity and more like, okay, I try to have them do a couple practice swings that feel good, and then put the club away. By the time the club's put away, if they can be on to what's next, I think that's a powerful statement too. What's next?
Yeah.
Because that shot's already happened, it's done. And okay, what's next? Okay, I'm up in the bunker. All right. And then you just move on and make your plan for the next shot. But and I think also I don't know if I got this from anybody, but at a certain point a number of years ago, if somebody was upset, as long as they weren't being rude, right, to their family, to their parents, because we all see that too. The kids can take it out on the parent. Maybe the parent's doing everything great and they become like the punching bag. But I do tell the kids and the parents, like, I love how much they care. Like, this amount of emotion is because they care, I think. Or at least I try to reframe that for them. Like, maybe it's because they're embarrassed, but it's like, no, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to plant the seed. Like, I love how much you care and how much, how much emotion you have here. Let's put that to work for you and not against you. And I think sometimes that helps the parent too, to be like, oh yeah, they aren't just being a little brat. They actually care.
Yeah, I mean,
So
what a great way to look at it, Sarah, on a mindset shift, almost for the parents. Hey, they care.
mhm,
That's a good thing. They
mhm.
could not care and just, walk off and not even, but how do we help them in that situation? And so like folks that are listening to this now or on the recording is I would look into some Pia Nilsson, Lynn Marriott stuff, Vision 54. They have some great ideas, thoughts, books to read. You don't have to take all their ideas, just take a couple of them that work for you. That post-shot routine is so important to learn. Like that is such a rich opportunity for you to learn. And even the high school kids I see in our area, they hit a shot 3 yards offline and they're slamming the club. Like, what are you getting upset about? When you're upset, you're losing this opportunity to learn. And everything I've read says you have 90 seconds to get rid of that thought, or it's going to be in your head for the rest of the round. So like you've got to get it out of your head somehow. Some people talk about changing the image in your mind to like something happy, like think about your dog. Like you can't think about a negative emotion and a positive at the same time. So if as a coach, you can get a positive emotion into their brain inside of that 90 seconds, so helpful. And Lynn and Pia have some great ideas on post shot. Uh, don't they have one where you like skip down the fairway or something, or like you do something happy, you draw a happy, I can't
Yeah.
remember. There like a happy
Yeah,
face
I'm sure there's
scorecard.
lots. I know that they had, and I know this is a pre-shot thing, but they had their players smile because
Yeah.
their thing is cortisol versus DHEA being released. Which one, if you're angry long enough, that cortisol gets too high, and the only way to flush cortisol from your system is to sleep for, I thought they said 8 hours, but so it's like, you don't want that to snowball and build up so much because cortisol obviously hinders performance, gets in the way. And then if elevated levels of DHEA are high enough, that's a performance booster. Uh, and it's even regulated like the Olympics. That's one of the many things that they check for, because you can take,
Oh,
there's certain natural levels of DHEA, I guess. And that's the happy drug. And so you can help your body make that with what you were saying about positivity. And it's not just being about it. It's actual, like they brought out Tickle Me Elmo and it was laughing and falling over and slapping its leg, and we were all laughing. They're like, you're releasing DHEA. So
yeah.
that was a huge thing from them, that, being able to kind of, be aware of just how powerful your body is with what can be released. And we're going to try to tip the scales towards that DHEA. So yeah, that was a huge thing I learned from them. So
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Thank you, Sarah, for that. All right, Jackie, let's tap your college golf experience, junior golf experience, and then move into the coaching of that. Can you share with us, what did your mom and dad do that you liked when you played college golf and junior golf? What did you not like that your mom and dad, or if mom and dad weren't there, grandpa, grandma, I'm not 100% sure your story, maybe it was your uncle or aunt. When your support team was there, what did you like? What did you not like?
Um, so I got into golf because of my stepdad. So my stepdad was at pretty much every practice, every lesson, every event for me. I appreciated them being there. My mom was just happy that I was out on the golf course having fun, doing what I enjoyed. But my stepdad, on the other hand, he is somebody who demands perfection. Golf, as Sarah said, is not a game of perfection. Instead, it's a game of managing imperfection. There's a difference between, hitting the perfect shot, but also hitting a playable shot. So if I hit a bad shot, I would look up, try to move on. And then I would see my stepdad kind of on the cart path, shaking his head, looking disappointed. And that's just not a good feeling as a player. You don't want to let down your family, somebody, you have to go home with. So that wasn't the most enjoyable. And then after the rounds, if I, played well, my mom was really happy. My stepdad was telling me what I needed to work on, how I could get better, which is helpful. But at the same time, if I'm doing well, I wanted some kind of, pat on the back.
Sure.
But I think in general, I just enjoyed my parents being there to support me. When my dad could make it and my grandparents could make it, they were just so happy. They would clap no matter how the shot was. As long as it went forward, they were ecstatic. So,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. So now let's switch gears to now you're a coach. So how have you communicated with the families to let them know that mom and dad have a certain role, you have a certain role, and maybe you're the coach, they're not the coach? How do you navigate that, or how have you tried to navigate that?
So you actually taught me the importance of the one voice mentality. So a junior always wants to make sure they're doing their best, not only for themselves, but for their family and their coach. I have a player who was 9 at the time. She was feeling the pressure of having everybody's expectations on her. It's a very emotional situation, and it became very stressful for her very fast. Like I said, golf is a game of managing imperfection. And, oftentimes in sports, parents want to see the perfect shot, the perfect, free throw, the perfect, all of that stuff. But sometimes that's just not going to be beneficial. So I try to have them buy in on golf is a process, right? Like as they get older, things are added to the process. And as they do that, the success rate begins to go up. So I've told parents their voices to be encouraging and someone they can go to, the player can go to whether they play well or not. They don't need the negative reaction coming from their number one source, of trust in their emotional outlet. They don't go home with me, they go home with their parents. So when they're upset, it's good that, their parent gets to say, it's okay. Like you can feel sad and upset, and that's perfectly fine. But if you're feeling sad and upset and you have a parent adding to that and saying, yeah, you're right, you should be sad and upset, that's not going to help them feel very excited about going to the golf course the next time. They're going to be more anxious, more nervous about stepping up to the tee. I tell parents that the voice of the coach is to evaluate what needs to be improved, and then work with the player to fine tune how we can change, something for the next thing and add to the process of them getting better. One story that I have is I had a family, the parents didn't know much about golf. They were baseball parents. So whenever their daughter would hit a bad shot, they would say, oh, you need to keep your head down. You need to keep your eye on the ball. They're, mishitting it because, you're looking up. You don't see the golf ball. So for 3 full events, this is what they were saying, to the point where she couldn't even hit the golf ball. Like she was swinging and she was missing. So our next lesson, we worked on what we had to work on. And in her follow through, I noticed that her head was still pointed to the ground when she was in her full follow through. So when I tried to tell her, okay, well, your head needs to lift up at some point, she said, well, no, my dad told me I need to keep my head down. I can't disappoint him. If he sees that my head's not down, he's going to think that I'm ignoring him. So I said, okay, we worked on, what we could for that lesson. And after the lesson, I sat down with her parents, showed them 5 different swings kind of just throughout the time that I had been working with her. And I was like, okay, so, this is what we worked on. This is, the problem. Her head staying down was not the problem, right? Like her head stayed down after she hit the golf ball every single time. And when I tried to have her lift her head up sooner, she told me that she didn't want to disappoint you, so she couldn't do that. They were assuming that, their daughter would listen to the coach. But for them, it was a breakthrough to understand that what they were saying had an impact on her performance and her understanding. So after that, after every lesson, the parents would say, okay, what did we work on? You know, what did you guys work on? How can we help reinforce that when we're at home, when we're practicing?
Yep.
And then make sure, you know, they're not giving unsolicited advice. Or if she has a question, they'll, you know, shoot me an email or shoot me a text if they can't answer it without kind of making something up.
Perfect. That is fantastic, Jackie. Great story. Great explanation on that. Great mindset shifts on the parents, right? Instead of them feeling like they need to jump in and say something, maybe they should ask the coach, hey, what should we work on? Great advice for all of us as parents. If our kid's in a baseball lesson or in a gymnastics lesson, at the end, go up to the coach and say, hey, what should I reinforce at home? Like the coach would love that if you said that as a parent versus you coming up with something to work on. And for those coaches that are attending that are younger, that might not have the confidence to tell a parent this, like, I'm sure Evan and Sarah would agree with this, but these are not easy conversations to have. But if you have them early enough, they really help the relationship. And David Orr's got a great saying. It was said to us yesterday in a putting clinic. At some point, as a coach and as a player, you got to put your big boy pants, big girl pants on and do the right thing. And if the right thing is to tell the parents what your role is as a coach and what their role is as a parent, do it for the benefit of the kid, right? Tell them, hey, I don't think it's a good idea for you to sit here during the lesson. Like sit in your car. I think that's a better idea. Let's try that for a session. That has worked so much for me over the years. It's been so helpful for the parent to sit in the car versus sit right next to me during the lesson. And the kid most of the time says, thank you, coach, for saying that. I didn't want them to be here, but I wasn't able to say it or something like that. So great example there, Jackie, and a great way to shift the mindset of the parents. As we dive into our last few questions, we've got a handful of Q&A from the audience as well, but I do want to hit on a couple of these real quick. Evan, coming back to you, sir, in Connecticut, how does a teacher coach adapt their teaching philosophy to be able to help players from different cultural backgrounds? This is another tough one. All right.
Well, I want to throw a curveball at you, Ryan, and I'd love to hear Sarah and Jackie's opinions on this because this is something I'm struggling with right now.
Okay.
Just like the coaches who are in the presentation, I'm hungry to learn. So, ladies, I'd love to get your opinions on the matter. I'll give you two separate instances that have happened to me in the past 3 months. The first one being have an exchange student from China who is a 3 handicap, aspires to play collegiate golf, comes to America and wants to compete. So I had an introductory lesson. She was touring the club, and I said, "Let me bring you into the studio and we'll do some coaching." And what she told me was her coach back in China advised her that she should use the standard loft, length, and lie and get perfect with all those clubs before trying something different. Now she's tall; she's almost 6 foot. So I was like, well, maybe you need to add a half inch or an inch to your clubs or something like that. Did you ever get your clubs fitted? And she says, no, my coach told me I needed to learn to play with everything standard first. And I tried to talk to her and say everybody's body is different. I have a longer torso versus shorter legs, so it makes my anatomy different. The club's different, but I was getting the sense that that wasn't resonating with her. That part of her culture wasn't allowing her to hear that. The second instance is with a American student, but of Korean and Taiwanese descent. So the parents are Taiwanese and Korean, and he is an accomplished competitive piano player. And the struggle that I had was I asked him, what do you do for other sports? And he's like, well, I play tennis and ski and play basketball at recess. And she's like, I don't like him playing basketball because he might injure his fingers. And I asked him, do you climb trees outside? And his mother looked at me and went, mm-mm. So there's that cultural difference of and how he is so able to compete at a high level with his piano playing. She's trying to relate that to golf. And being a musician, I can understand where she's coming from, but I think there's a cultural difference there where the American style of coaching versus the Asian version of coaching is clashing. And I wanted to know, Sarah, Jackie, have you had any experience with that?
Let's start with Sarah.
Yeah, I had a client a number of years ago with two kiddos, and he was very, very strict. Seemed striving for that perfection. I mean, eventually, and it wasn't on bad terms necessarily, but we did end up kind of parting ways. Um, and because I just didn't feel like it was within my personality to be so, to me it came across maybe harsh to me, and I get trying to balance that. Um, I think I think I think the pressures that the kids have on them, it's so immense. It's amazing to me how they sometimes can handle it and sometimes not. Um, so, and I know that the son, he was the oldest. I mean, he went to a different, a very, very good instructor in town, and who's known for really developing the competitive higher level juniors. But I don't think he went on to college, or, so it was like, that's the interesting thing I think with us, is that this takes years to play out. And I'm not going to sit here and be like, ha, I was right, but I was like, and it was sort of unfortunate that I'm like, I think he got a little burned out. So, and that does not bring me any sort of joy at all. But so that was my experience. Maybe it was a failure on my part that I wasn't able to communicate it. I think sometimes you just are not able to, the parent isn't willing to change or learn, or it's been so culturally, and it's within them so much that it's really fighting an uphill battle. So I don't know if I answered you, but that was my experience with a very, very demanding, high level type parents. So
That's
yeah,
perfect.
it was interesting. And as far as that, that was so interesting that they said they had to learn how to play with clubs that don't fit them. That's just astounding. It's I don't know why they think standard length, standard everything is the gold standard, I guess. And so I'm training, I've been to a number of Mike Adams and Terry Rawls things, and even back when it was EA Tischler, and now it's being packaged as the ultimate golf lesson. And one of their big things is how we have to like deprogram people and their belief systems, like to keep your head down or things like that. So um I just wonder with other sports, sometimes I'm like, well, if we played with a tennis racket that was this big or this, it's like it certainly influences, or if we changed, I don't know, I don't know exactly how you could get across to them that that's not how it works with golf, but it's like the equipment can either be your enemy or your friend. So, but anyway.
That's great. Thank you, Sarah, for that. Certainly appreciate it. I think we need to make a Instagram or TikTok channel, things parents say. And then the coach gets to say, well, this year, this is what I heard. I heard that. No, I'm just kidding. Because there's a really good one of a guy in a pro shop who answers the phone. I'm sure we've seen it, right? Mr. Smith, what's going on? Oh, you're on the 14th hole? No, don't aim for the pin. You lost your range find, and he's fantastic. It's very, very good. So, Jackie, have you had a chance? And if you haven't, as a coach, maybe you had some folks on your team at Marshall from a different cultural background. Could you lend some light on maybe coaching or adapting your coaching to that? Have you seen that yet in coaching? If not,
I have a little bit, and I have some personal background. So my stepdad is Japanese. So he comes from the, you need to stick with one sport and you need to perfect it. So when I did start playing golf, I had to quit playing basketball, tennis, and swim because I needed to focus on golf. That was fine in the moment because I got to focus more time on it. But when we would go take trips to go ski, I didn't get to ski because I could get hurt, right? So I would definitely relate to your student with that. But what ended up happening for me was about 6 months when I was a teenager, I quit golf because it was too much. I got burnt out. I was tired of it. I had hit a roadblock. I didn't have any other outlet. And that's when my stepdad was like, oh, okay, well, I don't want her to quit. She's good at she's good at this. And that's when he realized, oh, like maybe maybe we were a little too hard, taking her out of everything else. But I also had a teammate when I was at Marshall, she was from Sweden, and they don't have like high school sports like we do. They go to school for a sport. So if you want to play golf, you are going to a golf specific school. You have like, I think it was an hour or a 2 hour of 2 hours of education with whatever their subjects were, and the rest of the 6 hours you're hitting at a like a bay or playing golf depending on the season, of course. But she was sick of golf by the end of it. Like, she came to college and she was like, I'm only doing this because my parents want me to do this. I don't want to play golf anymore. You know, this has been my entire life. I'm more than my sport. So I think the issue is parents take, you know, golf or something their junior is good at and they make it their identity. But golf is nobody's identity, right? Like, I'm my own person outside of playing golf, outside of coaching golf. And my players are their own person outside of, you know, when I see them on the lesson team, when I see them out on 9-hole events. So I think separating, you know, your student in something they're good at is very important. Because otherwise, if they do bad, they're going to think that they themselves are however their outcome is.
That's great, Jackie. Very wise of you in your young years to have that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Very good thoughts there. And maybe Evan, on that cultural question, anything else you want to do to wrap kind of that question up based on their responses or what you were saying?
Well, Jackie, that's such great insight. And so I talked to my sister who works with international graduate students. She's involved in integrating them into American schooling, and she had a really interesting input where about inputs. You have to manage the students' inputs because they're getting the parents' input, they have their own experience, they have your input, and you don't want your input and the parents' input to clash because you don't want to create animosity between player and parent or between player and coach. So she said to me, she said, you have to adapt the way that you're delivering that information because it's most likely you are not going to win over the parent and override their culture. So you have to change your mentality, your philosophy, in order to encompass what they perceive as necessary and what you know is necessary, and try to find a blend of the two. So that's the struggle that I have. No, not struggle, the challenge, because that's a really important thing to be able to do. To manage the students' inputs and to see my input to them as a positive factor instead of driving them further and further away from the sport. So that's something that has become more important to me as I go on in my career, and I start to see players from other backgrounds as be really, really cognizant of what effect does my coaching have on them, and how do I alter it, despite me thinking it might be correct, because I might not be. Who knows?
100%. Well, thank you, Evan. That was a great idea to have their inputs as well, using your term, their inputs, from Sarah and Jackie on the cultural ones. Let's jump into some of the questions, and then we'll have some final thoughts just so we can land the plane right at the hour mark. The first one goes to Sarah. The first question: what do you know about coaching now that you didn't know when you started?
I think a lot. I think and I was surrounded by some really good pros that did a lot of great teaching, but I think I've learned more about what it takes to learn. Not that I'm an expert, but you know, I've done the Dr. Rick Jensen stuff where it's 12 to 24 months to make a motor pattern shift. So I think I'm just way more aware of how much time it takes, and that I don't panic. And I think also just my knowledge base, I feel like I can accurately diagnose and know what needs to be done. Like I said, I'm involved with the Ultimate Golf Lesson and all of their screenings to know what movement pattern they are, what grip they need. And so I guess I just feel like I have the confidence to believe in what I'm showing also, and that, okay, this takes time. I think that's probably the biggest thing is my confidence has grown. And also just, okay, if it's not this tremendous shift in one 30-minute lesson, it's okay. It's okay. And that's why I love this platform, is that We get a lot of time with these kids, with these group programs, and hopefully they do multiple semesters throughout the year. And so it's nice. It's not just people popping in for one lesson or even 6 lessons. This is a player development program. So I love it. I love it so much.
That's a great answer. And you hear this from experienced coaches, what Sarah just said. And if you're a young coach out there and you're trying to learn and get better, what she said was gold there. Like you hear from Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, all these coaches, how as they've gotten older, they've gotten more patient. They're just trying to get 1% better every day. They're not trying to use a corporate America term, boil the ocean, right? They're just trying to do one little thing in the lesson, have a little win, and we'll see you next week. And what a great way to think about it, because I think a lot of us, myself included, when I was a young coach, I tried to fix 12 things in a lesson and tell them everything I know in that one lesson in hopes that they would come back. And
you can't give a fire hose of information. I just picture a fire hose just, listen, it just doesn't work.
Yep.
We have to pace ourselves and manage their expectations and let them know this is a process. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
All right, Evan, you're up. This one is, I love how you find the information that resonates to the student so that they understand it. How would you explain, especially to a younger student, how to understand feel in putting?
So I love aim, roll, and stop, and use that constantly, hammer them over the head with aim, roll, and stop. And it's really the first question I ask a player when they blast it by: did you hit it or did you roll it? And if they say I don't know, then I'll give them, that was a hit. All right. So being able to term a strike versus a smoother roll. And then over time, especially young player, I just keep asking, did you hit it or did you roll it? And they'll know, that was a hit. And then when they do it right, what was that one? Oh, that's a roll. So getting them to feel what hit versus roll is really important. And then I found another thing in Waterbury, inner city Waterbury in Connecticut. I managed to win over this group of 7th and 8th grade boys and girls with putting by using a baby. All right. So my players know that I have 2 kids. My son was born in December, and I use a baby as an example. All right. So when you're holding a baby, do you shake a baby? No. Do we jump up and down with a baby? Do we run around with a baby? No. We rock the baby. All right. The putter is your baby. All you have to do is rock the baby. And all of a sudden now they're like, oh, okay. Now, and especially if they have younger brothers and sisters at home, it ties into their personal experience, and now they're able to relate a little bit more to, golf. The putting stroke is a gentler motion, is a smoother motion. I really try to hesitate to say slow, but giving them real life examples of, okay, it moves smoother, it moves gentle, and then to differentiate between hit and roll, and then is it a long swing, medium swing, short swing? They don't know those things. So it's all right, let's practice what long feels like, what medium feels like, what short feels like. And then once they get that, it's, can you stop this ball as close as you can to the hole, and just use that. So the curriculum is just fantastic. Ryan, you all did a great job with that.
Perfect. Well, thanks for adding that. Love the ideas. Rock the baby, robot arms, give grass a haircut, give the bunker a shave. I don't think you said that one, but I was just trying to come up with my own here. So I thought those were great. Credit on the curriculum needs to go to who created it. The putting and the green reading was created by David Orr. He created the 6 levels for us. He created the terminology, the simple terms. He did a wonderful job with it. I try to get with him every 2 years to review the curriculum to see if he changed anything. And for the last 10 years, he doesn't want to change anything. So he's happy with it. And it's certainly a great curriculum. Okay, we have hit the 2 o'clock mark. We certainly don't want to go way over this. We do have a comment in here just for us to be aware of. Pia, I think this is helpful for us on the panel. Pia and Lynn, evaluation. What is good? This might be a question that you ask. What is going good? What could you do better? How do you train or do in the next event? And then let the player talk. That's great advice, Tom. Appreciate you adding that in there. That last point you made on let the player talk is so important. Say a few things and then let them talk so they can decompress and get off their shoulders, whatever they're trying to talk about. So I appreciate the 3 of you being on the panel. This has been great for an hour. Some really good nuggets in here. Some ideas on mindset shift, which is super helpful. Doesn't matter if you're teaching or coaching, getting them to shift their mind a little bit on what their picture of the golf swing might be, or their picture of a putting stroke might be. I always know when you have a beginner and you say the word stop on the putting green, they're like, what? Golf? You're supposed to stop the ball? I thought golf was supposed to hit it as far as you can. And that's a huge mindset shift for the kids there. So some really good ideas there. Love Sarah's reference to Pia and Lynn and some of the Vision 54 stuff. If you folks want to get into that stuff some more, some great stuff. I'd love to learn a little bit more about the, you said perfect golf lesson at some point, Sarah. We can connect on that. Is that what it's called? Perfect golf lesson?
Yeah, ultimate golf lesson,
Ultimate
UGL. It used to be Bioswing Dynamics. So it's all Mike Adams stuff.
Perfect. Would love to jump into that. And Evan put in here for folks in the chat, I have a great resource for learning more about different age groups. The book is called Yardsticks by Chip Wood, Wood. It includes, oh, there's the picture of it. It includes the differences in physical, social, and cognitive developments in different age groups. It covers school-age children between the ages of 4 and 14. That's a great one for folks out there that want to get a little bit better at that. So appreciate everybody's thoughts on that. This has been great to have Jackie on here with her perspective of playing, also having a stepdad that had a Japanese background. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I would say that if in the future you ever get to coach a student that has a similar support system, you're going to be an awesome resource to help that family because you've walked that walk before. You know what's going on, and you can reference that and say, I had the same exact thing happen, and this is what I would do slightly different. So thank you, Jackie, for being on. This is a great group on here. I would say if you're trying to get better at a coach, be just like the three of these folks. Be curious, try to get better. A lot of awards in this group, but they're still trying to get better. I always love talking to Sarah. She's got a litany of stuff on her resume, but she's always trying to get better. And Evan the same way, always curious, trying to get better. So what a great panel to have. And we'll sign off for the day. Everybody have a good weekend and appreciate you guys taking the time to jump on here with us. Thank you, everybody.